If you are over 55 and you're still renting your home, I want you to listen very carefully, because what I'm about to tell you could decide whether your last years will be peaceful or financially terrifying. Right now, millions of people over 55 believe renting is safe, flexible, easy, no responsibility. But here is the uncomfortable truth no one tells you. If you enter retirement as a renter, you are placing your entire future in someone else's hands. Your landlord, the market, inflation, and none of them care about your age, your health, or your savings. In this video, I'm going to show you why renting after 55 is far more dangerous than most people realize, the silent risks that destroy retirements, and the exact strategy smart people use to regain control even late in life. If you're renting right now, this may be the most important financial video you will ever watch. Let's start with a hard question. How long do you think you will live? Statistically, if you are 55 today, there is a very high chance you will live another 25 to 35 years. That means 25 to 35 years of rent payments. Now, here's the part that almost nobody calculates. Rent does not stay the same. Over the past 30 years, rents have increased on average 3 to 5% every single year, sometimes more. So that apartment you pay $1,200 for today, in 10 years, it may cost $2,000. In 20 years, $3,000 or more. And here's the nightmare scenario. Your income in retirement is fixed. Your rent is not. Which means every single year, housing eats a larger piece of your pension. Your savings disappear faster. Your freedom shrinks until one day you realize you are working again at 72 just to pay rent. This is how many retirees quietly fall into poverty, not because they made terrible mistakes, but because they ignored one silent risk: housing instability. When you rent at 30, it's fine. You can move, you can work more, you can adapt. But after 55, everything changes. Let me explain why. 1. You can be forced to move anytime your landlord can. Sell the property, renovate, raise rent, or simply decide not to renew your lease, and suddenly you must move at 60, at 65, at 70. Moving when you are older is not just inconvenient, it's expensive, physically exhausting, emotionally draining, and worse, affordable housing becomes harder to find with age. You end up downsizing, moving farther from family, or into unsafe neighborhoods, all because you don't control your home. 2. Rent never stops. Here is the brutal difference between owners and renters. Homeowners eventually finish paying. Renters never do. At 80 years old, you are still writing checks. At 85, still paying. And if your savings run low, there is no pause button on rent. Miss a few payments, and eviction becomes real. Yes, even at 75, even at 80, this happens far more often than people think. 3. Inflation is your enemy. Inflation slowly destroys fixed incomes. Your pension increases slowly, if at all, but rent rises quickly. Over time, food costs more, medicine costs more, utilities cost more, and rent explodes. Eventually, you face impossible choices: heat or medicine, food or rent, healthcare or housing. This is not fear-mongering. This is already happening to millions of retirees. Many people over 55 say, "I'm too old to buy. I don't want debt. I don't want responsibility." Sounds reasonable, but here is the trap. By avoiding ownership, you are actually taking on more risk, not less. Let me explain. When you own, your housing cost becomes predictable, eventually drops to property tax and maintenance, and stops rising with inflation. When you rent, your housing cost is uncontrolled, always rising, and vulnerable to outside decisions ownership gives you. Stability, predictability, protection. Renting gives you uncertainty, exposure, anxiety, and the older you get, the more dangerous uncertainty becomes. Now here's the part that may surprise you. Being over 55 does not mean it's too late to fix this. In fact, for many people, this is the perfect moment to make the smartest housing decision of their life. Because at this age, you know where you want to live, your lifestyle is stable, your income is predictable, and you value peace more than speculation. The goal is not to get rich. The goal is simple: secure your housing for life. And there are 3 realistic strategies that work. Strategy 1, the last home. Principle. This is the most important concept in late life housing. At 55 plus, you should not buy a starter home. You should buy your last home, meaning 1 floor or elevator access. close to healthcare, close to family or community, low maintenance, affordable taxes and utilities. This is not an investment. This is a life foundation. The purpose? Lock in housing costs, eliminate rent risk, create long-term security. Even a small, simple home can completely transform your retirement because once your mortgage is paid, your biggest monthly expense disappears. Strategy 2, the low-risk mortgage approach. Many people fear mortgages after 55, but here is the reality. If you are healthy and expect to live 20 to 30 more years, a 15 to 20-year mortgage can be incredibly powerful. Why? Because inflation slowly reduces the real cost of your payment. Your rent would rise anyway, and eventually your payment ends. And here is something very important. Owning protects you from rent inflation forever. While renters fight rising costs, your housing stays controlled. This alone can save you hundreds of thousands of dollars over a lifetime. Strategy 3, the downsize and secure method. This is one of the smartest moves many people ignore. If you have savings, inheritance, or equity elsewhere, you can buy a smaller property in a cheaper area with low taxes and minimal maintenance, sometimes even pay cash or pay off quickly. This gives you zero rent, no mortgage, very low living expenses, which means your pension suddenly feels much larger, your savings last longer, your stress disappears. This is how many quiet retirees build peaceful lives. Let me ask you something personal. When you imagine yourself at 75, do you want to worry every year? Will my rent go up? Will I have to move? Can I still afford this place? Or do you want to feel, this is my home? No one can take it from me. I am safe here. Housing security is not just financial. It is emotional. It affects sleep, health, relationships, mental peace. And the older you get, the more priceless stability becomes. Now, to be honest, for some people renting is still the right choice, but only if you do it intelligently. If you continue renting after 55, you must live in rent-controlled or stable markets, have large savings buffers, keep housing below 25 to 30% of income, and plan for future increases. You must also ask, what happens if I live to 90? What happens if my health declines? What happens if rents double? If you cannot answer those calmly, then renting is not safe. It is risky. Here is the simple truth. Retirement is not about maximizing wealth. It is about minimizing fear. And the single biggest fear for most retirees is losing their home. Ownership does not make you rich, but it makes you independent, stable, protected, and calm. And in the final decades of life, calm is worth more than money. If you are over 55 and still renting, this is not a judgment. This is a moment of opportunity. You still have time. You still have choices. You still can build security. The worst decision is not renting. The worst decision is not planning. If this video helped you, write in the comments, how old are you? And are you renting or owning? Your story may help someone else make the right decision. Subscribe for more honest advice about money, retirement, and building a peaceful future. And remember, the goal is not to die rich. The goal is to live free.